Hi, Tanja here and welcome to TMJ TV, a weekly video series aimed at real estate leaders that would love more time to grow their people and their business. Did you know that leaders spend up to 80% of their time navigating the people, performance and productivity issues within the business? Now this means their focus is off recruiting for results, delivering strategies for success and gaining the market share that they desire. Well, I'd love to help. Every single week I'm going to share insights and free downloadable tools to help you and your people achieve your success in the least amount of time. I hope you enjoy this next episode of TMJ TV. Hi, Tanja here and welcome to TMJ TV, a weekly video series for real estate leaders and teams that would love to grow themselves and their people in the least amount of time. And someone that's done that pretty remarkably is Mr. Phil Harris from Harris Real Estate. Hey, Phil.
Hey, Tanja. Hi, good to see you.
Phil, thank you. Thanks so much for taking some time out of ARIC.
Pleasure.
And just having a conversation around leadership.
Sure.
You know, what it means and what's important and what are the challenges. So really
Sure.
appreciate you being here. Now I know 7 years ago you said to your mum, I think I'm going to open my own office.
Yeah, and that was, I was kind of came with a mixed response from
Mum?
both my parents. Yeah, saying, and look, it's probably a natural progression as a salesperson. I was doing pretty well as a salesperson, and I had a desire to go to that next level.
What was pretty well? What's pretty well? For those that are watching, what does pretty well look like on your terms?
I think I was doing just under 100 sales per year. So,
right.
I'd always, been successful and been a top salesperson in South Australia. And so, not egotistically, but I was earning a good income and life was pretty good. So, and I was about 26 years of age. So it was
not bad.
Decision to get on with it. Yeah.
And many agents were once agents that thought like you, whether they told their mum or not, I'm going to do it myself.
Sure.
I think I can do my own thing. No doubt in the last 7 years you've learnt a lot because now you've built the team up to 130 people.
Yeah.
What's been the hardest thing from making that declaration to being 7 years later 130 people in? What's been the biggest challenge for you as a leader? Yeah,
look, it might be tough to kind of pinpoint specifically one. There's numerous things that probably come to mind, but I think ultimately when you make a decision to go from being a salesperson, and when you're a salesperson, you may have a team around you, maybe one or two or three or four PAs is what you typically see in today's environment. But making a decision to go and be a business owner really is a decision to go into leadership, and depending on what you understand leadership to be, can be very different to what it is. And so in my opinion, leadership is about serving others. And so you go from really two kind of polar opposite roles where as a top salesperson, it really is about me first, me. It's about my listings, it's about my sales, it's about my commission and what can I do to leverage and get ahead of the game. Whereas you completely flip the switch on that and it now becomes, how can I help you grow your business? How can I be selfless and how can I help you grow what you're doing? So that's the biggest shift that people don't realise what they're signing up for.
Do you reckon that's for everyone?
No, I don't think it is. And I think that you need to, look, if you're a good agent and you can put a few people around you, you'll be able to run an okay office. But I think if you want to grow a great office, leadership skills become vitally important. And it's about how can you duplicate and how can you build other people around you, which is a very different mindset for a typical top salesperson.
Sure. So share with us 3 things. And this is all on the spot and not rehearsed, right? So I appreciate you're just going to dig deep swiftly.
Sure.
What are 3 things that you did to build a team of 130 where you do below their dreams to life and it is about them? Because obviously that's something you value to do that. Okay, that's the first thing that comes out of your mouth, right?
Yeah.
But what are 3 things that you did that had helped you do that?
I think firstly, a good quote I heard or a speaker I heard a while ago, so how long does it take to become an overnight success? And it takes about a decade.
Yeah.
So you've got the 10,000 hours theory that we've all heard. And so when people hear, the story of Harris Real Estate, we've had quite phenomenal growth in that period. The reality is, it took about 10 years for that to actually occur. So I spent the first 10 years of my career dedicated to going to as many conferences as I could, growing myself as a salesperson. I became very heavily involved in coaching and speaking others and how to prospect, list and sell. So when I decided to open the doors on Harris Real Estate, and we had this huge growth in such a short period of time, It was more because people wanted to join me because of my past,
Yeah.
not because of what Harris was doing in that moment, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so you built up the credibility
came
by
over the-
virtue
yeah.
of being on the, like you
Correct.
you earned your stripes.
Yeah, correct. So I had all this momentum coming in. So it wasn't an overnight success. It was
Yeah.
about a decade of hardcore selling, getting it right. So that was the first thing. Second key thing I'd say if you're serious about, growing a business is that ultimately, people are looking for great leadership now. So as I said, leadership to me is about serving others. And so I think ultimately it's the focus has to be completely consumed on how do you create a platform or an environment where other people can thrive.
Yeah.
So too many agents I see, they worry about what their competition is doing down the road, they worry about what this person's up to. You need to look at your environment, your office and go, hey, what can I do that would make people want to work for me? It's that attraction agency philosophy, if that's it. And third thing I'd say as a leader is that you've got to be consistent. And one of the big things I've learned in leadership in real estate is that, as harsh as it is, nobody cares how I'm feeling. And so,
Really?
Yeah. And so when you've got 130 staff, look, I have plenty of days, and I remember hearing John McGrath speak about this, is there plenty of days where you wake up and he doesn't feel like getting out from under the doona, but you've got to have a series of strategies and process in place that I have, a strong morning ritual that I'll go into to get myself into a state of peak performance so that even if things aren't going great in my personal life, and I'm a human being, I've got stuff going on just like you, just like everybody.
And a new young child in the
I've
house
got
now,
a new
6-month-old,
new baby on the go. And so I've got a series of things that I'll go through to make sure that, even if I'm, up front, it might look like things are going well, but behind the scenes, if things aren't great, I've got to be able to walk into that office every day, and I don't have to be at a 10 out of 10, but there's got to be a minimum performance standard of, say, an 8 out of 10, so you don't have these peaks and troughs of being a leader. So people want consistency, and they want a leader that they have confidence that they're going to go the journey with. So they're probably, off the top of my head, they're probably
well
three
done.
things. Yeah.
So no doubt in the time that you've been leading,
Yeah.
there would be people that come into your business, work with you, that don't have a morning ritual, that aren't in state,
Yeah, sure.
and then they represent your brand.
Yeah, sure.
What have you done, and what would you recommend to principals watching this that have people in their business that aren't at state, in state, and that negatively could impact the way their brand is received in the marketplace?
Well, I think
How do you manage that?
Well, I think one of the key things of, if we say leadership within a real estate business, and it's a good simple philosophy, I should say, but have few messages and repeat them often.
Right.
So don't overcomplicate your business. So if we
Yeah.
talk specifically about a salesperson, for example,
Yeah.
that there's really only 3 or 4 things they need to execute every day. And we've heard some of these things this morning. I thought, Bob Wolf is just exceptional talking about things that a great salesperson needs to do, and don't overcomplicate it. And so I regularly talk to my people about, number one is you've got to have great energy. Number 2 is you need to prospect every single morning for at least 1, 2 or 3 hours minimum. And then number 3 is you need to get out in the afternoon, after midday, and just get out and get face to face and interface with people. So I think ultimately for principals, have a few set of clear messages that your agency lives by and constantly reinforce.
So set the standards. And consistency is key.
Yeah, and consistently reinforce those. Now, by the way, just because I keep reinforcing, that doesn't mean that you are going to do that. Now, you've got to take responsibility for your life, not me, but I can keep reinforcing the simple things. And then what you'll find is that, the majority of agents will actually get on board. And if they don't get on board, then you got to look at your hiring and maybe your firing process there.
Yeah. So we've recently done the real estate, the real estate of leadership survey with CoreLogic, RP Data, and I asked you to check which one did you think was the most important that leaders need to focus on, because you've just shared the things that you've done to make sure that you succeed in your business and how you can help others. Which one out of these would you say is the biggest issue from an industry perspective, and what do you think we need to do and why?
Yeah, probably the final dot point there, Tanja. I've got like 26% of leaders spend up to 50% of their time navigating the people and performance issues of their business.
Yeah, which is a lot of time.
And that's mission critical. And I think that if you're spending 50% of your time, in management issues, that's a lot of energy and a lot of resource. So it probably comes back to establishing a clear set of values in your organisation. And the more and more that your team is aligned with living those those values so that you're not having to be spent in, day-to-day management of, somebody's upset because someone called them a name or whatever it might be, and we can focus on dollar productive activities or growth or, or other areas of the business that are going to be far more impactful. That's going to have a pretty profound impact in the marketplace.
Simple.
Yeah.
And when leaders, certainly nearly 30% of leaders are spending 50% of their time navigating the people, performance and productivity issues, they're not delivering their business strategies and they're not growing the market share that they desire, which means a lot of busyness rather than productiveness.
Yeah, I think people also feel that once they get into a management or a business ownership level, that it is just managing people and administration. That's just absolute nonsense. The reality is, if you've got good structures in place, good resources in place, your role as a business owner or manager, you should still be out there interfacing, growing that business in a positive manner. Whether that be doing more recruitment, whether that be coaching, whether that be running seminars for consumers. That's a far better use of time than trying to sort out day-to-day kind of housekeeping issues internally.
Yeah, small stuff.
Yeah, correct.
So out of any industry, which leader inspires you the most? Big call, I know, there's a lot, but which one resonates?
For me, I like people that live full out and have extreme high performance. So I'm probably someone like a Tony Robbins to me is just an incredibly. I think he's one of the most high performing guys on the planet. He's been doing it for 4 decades now, and his energy is still incredible and still keeps delivering. So I look at people like that. I've got someone like a John McGrath. He's been doing it for 3-4 decades now as well.
20th anniversary of ARIC.
Yeah, incredible.
So I think the key message that I'm getting from you, Phil, is consistency, because you've also shared 2 leaders who are consistent. Decades of putting consistent energy out there at a certain standard too. Their standard hasn't dropped, their energy hasn't dropped, and the results that they produce doesn't drop.
Yeah, absolutely. I think anyone can have a good year or 2 in real estate. We see that, but I think the real question is, can you have a good decade or 2 or 3? And if you can be at the top of your game and world class for 2 or 3 decades, I think that's rare air, and that's certainly what I strive to be part of.
For sure. Well, you're a living, breathing example of that.
Trying.
Yeah. And I love that you say that word, because it just demonstrates you're an eternal student. You've never arrived, and I think that's one of the greatest qualities. So for all the sales agents that are out there and watching, who are like you and maybe sitting at their desk or driving around their car thinking, I want to do this, I can do this, what would you say?
Oh, well, absolutely, you can do it. But I think it's the main thing is getting really clear on what your plan looks like as far as what a long-term vision is, but ultimately what it comes down to, success is not a long-term game, it's what you're doing in the next 5 minutes that counts. And that's a really great, quote that I've heard a long time ago.
Yeah.
You can have this great vision, but ultimately the true test is the clock's gone by in the last 5 minutes, were you super productive, and have you done something that's going to move you towards, one step closer towards that goal?
Yeah.
Now that might be one more telephone call, it might be one more appraisal, it might be one more face-to-face, it might be, one more learning environment, but have you moved the needle in the last 5 minutes to get you one step closer to where you want to be? Pretty simple stuff.
It's the detail that makes the design.
Absolutely.
Phil Harris, always a pleasure.
Pleasure.
Thanks for consistently inspiring us to be greater and being the work at work. Really love your work.
Pleasure. Thanks. Tanja. Cheers.
Good to see ya. I hope you found that useful. If so, please like it and share it. And if you'd like access to the free downloadable tool, just click on the available link. If you also have any questions or challenges, specifically in the area of leadership or mindset, just write it in the comments below, and where possible, I'll provide solutions to your requests. Remember, let love lead, and you can turn your workforce into the life source of your business. I'll see you next week for more TMJ TV.